Good morning, everyone. This week's Torah portion begins with the story of Isaac and Rebekah praying for a child. And the Torah says that they prayed facing one another. Vayetar Yitzchak laHashem lenochach ishto. Isaac entreated and prayed to God for a child, opposite his wife. And Rashi says that what the verse is telling us is that they stood in two corners of the room and prayed separately, individually. But another beautiful interpretation is that what the verse is saying is that they prayed facing one another, meaning each one prayed on behalf of the other. So Isaac said, God, grant us a child, not in my merit, but in the merit of my wife. Do it for my wife's sake. And Rebekah, on the other hand, prayed for a child and said, God, for my husband, who's so righteous, grant us a child. Each one prayed with concern for the other. And this is the way we're supposed to pray. We're supposed to pray by not only thinking of ourselves, but thinking of others, and asking God in the merit of the other person, may the blessings be granted. This week there was a huge rally in Washington for Israel. And approximately 300,000 people showed up. And the first thing that the whole world saw is how unique and special the Jewish people are. This rally was filled with American and Israeli flags. Unlike the other rallies we see, where you will not see any American flags. In addition to that, the rally was filled with warmth, with love, with joy, with a sense of camaraderie and brotherhood and friendship. You didn't see yelling or screaming or burning things or destroying things. You didn't see hate. You didn't see anger as you see in many of these other rallies. You saw love and friendship. You saw solidarity. You saw singing and prayer. That's what you saw at this rally. And all you have to do is look at the two rallies, and you right away know what the Jewish people and Israel stand for, and how aligned they are with the values of our country. But it was pointed out something quite fascinating, that this rally had 300,000 Jews. At the same time, we know that when the war broke out, Israel called up all of its reservists. And what was the number of reservists that were called up, that went to the front lines? 300,000. And so you have 300,000 Jews in Israel leaving their families to go to the front lines, and 300,000 Jews leaving their homes to go to Washington to stand and support Israel. And just like Isaac and Rebekah, each one was praying for the other, so too the Jews in Israel, Israelis who went to the front lines, didn't just go for their brethren in Israel, but they're going for all of the Jewish people around the world, because they know that we only have one Jewish homeland, and therefore the security in Israel is the security and the safety of Jews around the world. And at the same time, the Jews in America went to Washington to stand with their brothers and sisters in Israel. Each one is praying and acting on behalf of the other. We have our own problems, anti-Semitism. And the rally was a stance against anti-Semitism. But we're more concerned our brothers and sisters in Israel. The same thing is true for our brothers and sisters in Israel. And what's so unique about this is that together you have 600,000. And 600,000 is a very special number, because it says that when the Jewish people came to Mount Sinai, they stood like one person with one heart. They were united at Mount Sinai. And the Torah tells us how many Jews were there at Mount Sinai, how many souls stood there? 600,000. And indeed the word Yisrael, Israel, is an acronym for the fact that there are 600,000 souls, the original 600,000 souls of the Jewish people. And so here you have the entire Jewish nation represented, 600,000 Jews, and like Isaac and Rebekah praying for one another. There's a rabbi in New York, his name is Rabbi Pesach Krohn, and he's a renowned lecturer, and he was once traveling in Baltimore, and he spoke in a synagogue, and he talked about this idea that the Talmud says if you pray for someone else, and you need the same thing, your prayers will be answered. And a woman came over to him afterwards and thanked him for the lecture and said, you know, my husband and I have been trying desperately to have a child for many years. We have infertility problems and we can't have children. And so Rabbi Krohn said, based on what the Talmud says, if you pray for someone else, your prayer is answered for yourself. Rabbi Krohn said, I have a daughter, unfortunately, who also can't have children. She's trying. I'll tell you what, I'll give you her Hebrew name and you'll pray for her. And give me your Hebrew name and I'll give it to my daughter and she'll pray for you. And they agreed to do that. A few months later, the woman calls him and says, Rabbi, I have good news to tell you. I got pregnant. Rabbi Krohn says, well, I have good news to tell you. My daughter is also pregnant. And then Rabbi Krohn said, he got a call at the end of the 9 months from the woman to let him know that the baby was born healthy. And when was this baby born? The same day that his daughter gave birth. This is the power of prayer, and this is the power of unity. Have a wonderful day.